Did you inherit $1 million from your grandparent, or are you about to become wealthy from someone else's hard work? If you say yes to these questions, this show is not for you. You, the hardworking, committed, and ambitious professional who have a 9-to-5 corporate job or a 12-hour shift worker keeping the assembly line running. Perhaps you run your gig as a freelancer, or maybe you run a small business. You are in the right place. Welcome to the Career Evangelist Podcast, where you get your weekly tips, ideas, strategies, and inspiration to find purpose in what you do so you can build a career you are passionate about and live a fulfilled life. Here is your host, Bola Alabi.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Career Evangelist Podcast. We have a very special guest today. We have Rich Smith, who is the co-founder of Vojomo and a trusted advisor to founders and executives that want to scale fast. He's led high-stakes marketing initiatives, managed hundreds of millions in budget, and helps teams find focus, momentum, and results when everything's on the line. Get ready, guys, for practical career strategies and tips to help you stand out in your career. So with that, I'm going to bring in our guest. Hello, Rich. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Bola. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
It's awesome. So welcome to the Career Evangelist Podcast. My listeners, they are eager to know about you. So why not tell us more about your career journey and what led you to being here today, Rich?
Well, thanks for asking that question about my career journey. I wish I could say that I had some, grand plan, when I graduated college and knew exactly what I wanted to do. But I would be lying if I said that. I studied economics as an undergrad, and what drew me to economics was just the insight around how and why people make decisions. From there, I ended up working as an intern in a marketing department of a large credit card bank one summer between my junior and senior year, and really just kind of fell in love with marketing for largely the same reason. And so that's kind of what steered me into the field. And I've noticed, over the years, as I've gotten more and more experience there, it really is something that, I really enjoy, that just understanding how and why people make decisions, how our brains work. And that's been kind of the thread throughout my career. I mean, I studied economics before there was such a field as behavioral economics. I was more classically trained, but these days we talk a lot about behavioral economics and behavioral science. And, I have a passion for that field of study and learning.
Oh, that's so good. So, in terms of, I hear you talk a lot about decisions. In terms of making decisions, especially when it comes to career growth, what are some, I'll call it, ideas or maybe checklists that you think people need to make, at least in order to make an intelligent decision?
Yeah, that's another really good question. And, when I talk to younger people, talk to people about, their career decisions and try to help coach, a couple of the questions I always ask are, who will you be working for, and how do you fit with them from a cultural perspective or like chemistry perspective, right? Because you can have the greatest job in the world, but if you have a terrible boss, you're not going to be a happy person, right? So that's one thing to really think about. Two is, are you going to be learning something? I am a strong believer that people do their best work, not when they're thrown into a job where they already know everything. They do their best work when they're in a position where they need to learn things in order to excel. And there's a number of reasons for that. I think one is it just focuses your attention, and it gives you this feeling of personal growth and accomplishment that you really can't get any other way. And so just that's another just really key question is, you're considering this position, are you going to learn something? How do you gel with the person you'd be working for? Do you think that person, are they the kind of person that develops people, or are they the kind of person that just wants to use you for, your productivity or what you can do, right? Or are they the kind of person that would really care about your development? So I think those are some of the key questions, before you even get into, well, is that field the right way to go? Or is that path the right way to go? I think those are just two basic fundamentals that you really need to keep in mind in order to make sure that you're advancing your career and also, living a great life, living the way you want to live and being happy in your day to day.
No, that's so good, Rich. Two things, learning, and I totally agree with you there. Learning can help us to grow, because the more you learn, the more you can expand your horizon and your scope. Now, the other one was about the person you are working with, the manager or the boss. And with that, I think people have less influence in terms of, because most of the time, maybe you can't pick your boss that, hey, this is a guy that to be my manager. And most of the time, again, when people are interviewing for a job, they don't know all the details about who this boss is going to be. Now, let's say somebody ends up being with a bad manager. What do you tell them in terms of how to navigate their career or manage this terrible boss so that they can still advance in their career?
Yeah, and a good question. Unfortunately, I've had a few of those experiences. I won't name names, but I have been there. And I would say, one of the key principles is you never fail your way out of a bad situation. And what I mean by that is, okay, let's say, for whatever reason, you find yourself working for a terrible boss. If you don't put out your best effort, even in that situation, you are unlikely to find your next position. So you need to focus first and foremost on how do you succeed within the role that you have right now, because that gives you the stepping stone and the launch pad to move on to something else. And if you just faced with a difficult situation like that, a difficult boss to work for, if you just kind of throw up your hands and say, well, I can't do anything about this, and, you don't succeed, you don't generate some success or some, positive, career accomplishments that you can point to, you're going to be stuck there for a lot longer than you would have otherwise. And you won't really give yourself the best chance at finding the next great thing. And, the other thing that I would just tell people or remind people is that, we feel like we have to work, like I have to have a job, right? And there are reasons. We have families, we have to have a living, we need to put food on the table and pay for the mortgage or whatever. But what you do with your time, when you show up to work every day, you are making a choice. There are very few jobs that you are forced to show up for. If you're in the military, okay, you're forced to show up, right? Or they will put you in jail if you don't. But barring that, most other professions, it's a choice. And how you spend your time is a choice. And time is the only resource that all of us have a limited supply of, and none of us know how much we have. So, make a conscious choice about how you're spending your time. And if you're not spending it in a way that is allowing you to grow, allowing you to succeed, allowing you to achieve, the kinds of things that you want to achieve in your life, then you need to make a change.
So, Rich, I like the direction you are taking this conversation, and I want to go a little bit deeper. I know you started your career, you mentioned it at a credit card bank company. I believe you transitioned from being a 9 to 5 employee to owning your own business today. Can you walk us through that journey? And the purpose is that I want to motivate my is that, hey, even if you don't like your job today, how can you spend your time? Maybe you need to go develop something for yourself whereby you become your own boss. So let's hear from you.
Yeah, yeah. Another really good question. I think that for me, I've been the chief marketing officer of 7 different companies over the past 20 years, and for what drove me to do what I'm doing today is, I love seeing organizations succeed. And I felt like I could have more impact by running my own business than by working with, each company one at a time. And I got to this point in my career where I've done it enough that it's almost like muscle memory, when I'm faced with a growth challenge or a marketing challenge. It's maybe not the exact situation I've been in before, but I've probably been in one that's pretty similar. So it puts me in a great position to be able to give back. I personally wish that I had started to do more entrepreneurial things earlier in my career, because I think the earlier you start, when you're younger, you have less responsibilities, less, ties. You may not have a family or even a spouse or own a home or, and it gives you a little bit more freedom, I think, to take those kinds of chances. And if you look at people who really like it, we could probably rattle off together, 10, 20 names of business people that are amazingly successful. I would pretty much guarantee that 95% of them started something entrepreneurial when they were younger in their career. And that's the kind of thing that leads to amazing growth and frankly, in some cases, generational wealth.
That's so good. Now, Rich, you are specialized in go-to-market strategy, product launch strategy. Can you tell us some of your success story in terms of companies that you've worked with?
Yeah, certainly. A few years ago, I was the chief marketing officer of a data company. It was about 100, maybe 125 employees. So one of the smaller, probably the smallest organization that I've worked for other than, my own business. I had been a customer of this company years before. Then I went into management consulting. They asked me to come in and take a look at what they were doing from a marketing perspective, and ultimately hired me full time. So I left the consulting company, went in-house with them. And the challenge there was really, how do we take an organization that is already, they were doing pretty well before I got there, but they, the owners and investors wanted to get to a sale. And that like last mile is what they were struggling with, is like, how do we do what we need to do within the organization and externally in order to position it for an acquisition? So that was my main challenge when I went in there, was to think about, how do I package this organization and sell it in a way, to potential investors, in a way that would resonate. And part of the solution there was just focusing, the marketing team on, growth and changing some of the things they were doing so that we could accelerate our growth. Part of the solution was getting a lot more brand awareness within the market and the industries that we were in. And, and just the fact that, like, I had been their buyer in prior roles. I had been the kind of person that they needed to sell to. So I just brought a level of credibility to the organization that they didn't otherwise have. And it worked out very well. We were fortunate. I came in thinking we would try to sell the company within about 12 to 18 months. I think we sold it in 10.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. So you mentioned that you worked as a chief medical officer for 7 different companies. That means you are high up there when you think about career ladder. Now there are people listening to you right now, working professionals that want to grow in their career. I want to ask, how should they position themselves for bigger, higher roles, even before the opportunity shows up?
Yeah, a great question. I think it's super important for you to, one, be in a role where you are learning things, because it's that learning and growth that leads to higher career opportunities. 2, I would say, take every opportunity that you can take to get outside of your comfort zone. So as an example, let's say you don't like public speaking. A lot of people don't, right? But, to move into an executive, a C-suite kind of role or an executive role, I don't care what field you're in, you've got to be able to present an argument and persuade an audience.
Right.
So, that's just one example, but let's say, you're a relatively junior person, you want to advance in your career, okay, and you don't like public speaking, all right, there's something that you've got to lean into to get better at. Because it's so much of being successful in business is relationships and being able to persuade and being able to, be articulate about your ideas when you're in a room full of skeptical people. And that's a skill that you need to develop. The other thing that I would say is, if you're not adding value beyond just moving, let's say, your job is to move paper from one stack to another stack. All right. Okay. That may be your job, but there's still an opportunity for you to add your own intellectual capital into that process, and not just move things from A to B, but move them from A to B, but make it better when it gets there, or provide, solutions, or, right. Like, so as you approach your work, look for opportunities to put your mark on it and add your value to it, right? Don't just do exactly what the boss says and do the bare minimum. Think about, how do I make this even a little bit better than what they asked me to do? And put your own thought process into it. Because the difference between junior level employees and, junior level positions and C-suite or senior level positions is the amount of strategic thinking that goes on.
Yeah.
Right. The further down you are in an organization, the more likely your role is to be very well defined. Like, you got to do this, here are your metrics, right? Very well defined. The higher you get in an organization, okay, what the big goals are, but how you get from A to B is what you're tasked with, right? And how do you generate that vision? How do you generate the strategy? And then how do you pull together the resources, people, capital, whatever, in order to accomplish it? And that's kind of the difference that separates what I've seen from the, more junior level positions to, if you want to advance into C-suite or, if you want to run your own business, then you're going to be doing everything.
So, Rich, tell us about Vojomo and the kind of customers you have today and the problems that you are solving for them.
Yeah. So I've got a couple companies. Vojomo is one that I'm involved in, and I founded that company with a few partners, people that I'd worked with before. And really our mission there is to empower leadership teams to get aligned and to meet their goals. One of the things that I think often stands in the way of a team getting to, let's say you're a private company and you want to get to a exit, right, an acquisition. One of the biggest things that I see standing in the way is just everyone on the team is going different directions. So Vojomo is developing an enhanced software platform that will allow organizations to build their goals and create, in an easy way, create meaningful updates on progress from week to week and make sure all the executives on a leadership team are completely aligned. So that's the mission of that company. The other company that I have is the Rich M. Smith Growth Studio. And in that organization, we work with businesses of all size on what I like to call big M marketing, which is the strategic side of marketing. So it's, what do you do? What's your brand message? Who are you trying to reach? So I work with them on shoring up their go-to-market strategy, shoring up their brand messaging. What is the product launch strategy? Let's say if they're bringing out a new program and, all the way down to, hey, let's build out your marketing plan for the next 12 to 18 months.
Good. So we've been talking about the good side of running your home business, and we've talked about successes. I do not want to create an impression that owning or running a business is bed of roses. So I want to hear about maybe some challenges or even failures that you've experienced in your business or in your career.
Yeah, no, it's certainly, it's not a bed of roses. It's not for everybody. You tend to feel like you're never really off, right? You never really have vacations. So you have to really be careful about that because you can get burnt out pretty easily. I'd say that's one of the things that I see from a lot of fellow entrepreneurs is just the burnout factor. They're missing their family events. They're not taking care of their health. They're not taking care of their relationships that they have, their friends, et cetera. And like you gotta make time for those things because that's really what energizes you and allows you to work harder during the time that you are working. So I see that over and over again. It's definitely one of the pitfalls I think that a lot of entrepreneurs fall into is just that feeling that, okay, I've got to be working 24/7. I've got to be, in the business all the time. And that's really not the case. The other thing that I've learned, which is a difficult lesson to learn, is, there's a lot of things that I can do. But the question really shouldn't be, okay, yes, I'm able to do that thing, but am I the best person to be doing that thing? Right. And you really have to be, because if you can hire somebody else to do it at lower than what your cost would be, your cost of your time, like take your typical, revenue. There's a lot of different ways to calculate it, right? But take the amount of revenue that you should be able to generate with an hour of time, and what does it cost you to generate that? If you can hire someone else to do it for less than that number, then you probably should be hiring somebody else. And you should be focusing on the things that you're really good at and the things that are going to be driving your business forward, not the other stuff. And by other stuff, that could be everything from, reading your own email to managing your own calendar to making your own travel arrangements to maybe you need to hire, a sales team or a marketing team. You begin to ladder up. You start with the basics. You begin to ladder up. And basically, you got to replace yourself. Right. And that's part of the key to scaling is, as a founder or CEO, figuring out when is the right time to replace yourself with somebody else so that you can move up to a higher level and narrow in on just spending your time on the things that are the most valuable to you and to your business.
That's good. Thank you for sharing that, Rich. Now, as we are wrapping it, I want to hear from you. And I know my listeners, they are going to find this beneficial. Can you give us like a career advice or business advice that you think can impact people and help them to grow in their endeavor?
Yeah. So one of the things that I often find, and with particular newer businesses or people who have just started a business is they've got a great product or service idea, and they put all of their energy and capital, for that matter, if they've raised capital or if they're bringing their own money and bootstrapping, but they put all their energy and capital into the development of that product or service without spending much time or even close to equal time on how are they actually going to distribute it. Because there are thousands and thousands of great products and services out there that none of us know about because nobody figured out how to sell them. Nobody figured out the distribution part. So you've got to be putting an equal amount of time, take all the time that you're putting into product or you're putting into developing your service. You have to spend an equal amount of time into how are you taking that product or service to market? What does your funnel look like? What's your process? What's your messaging? How are you reaching your target audience, et cetera? All those questions. And without that balance of focus, you're probably not going to be successful, or it's going to take you a lot longer to get there.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Rich. So as we are now wrapping it, where can my listeners find you so that they can connect with you and get to continue to learn with you?
Great. Yes. The easiest place is my website. It's richmsmith.com, and you can find out more about what we do with the Growth Studio and connect with me there. And happy to answer any of the questions that your listeners might have.
All right. That's good. Thank you very much for being on the Career Evangelist podcast today. We enjoy having you on the show, and thank you for all the wisdom that you've shared with our listeners here.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It was a great conversation.
All right. So yeah, I've stopped the recording. I think in about 2 to 3 weeks, it should be ready for publication. I'll share the links with you. Thank you for coming to the show.
All right, great. Thanks for having me. Sorry, I had a coughing fit in the middle there. Hopefully that won't cause you too much trouble.
I have my water bottle right here. So
okay, yeah.
Talking, sometimes this thing can come at any time. So yeah,
it's always exactly the wrong moment. You're gonna drive through it.
No worries at all. Thank you for.
All right. Thanks. Great to see you. Talk soon.
Okay. Bye.